We just want to know what happened and why our baby didn't come home. Like that's our biggest thing. And we are so grateful to everyone, family, friends, classmates, United Cajun Navy, everybody that's assisted us. We appreciate you. There's not enough thank yous that we could say or give to you, but I just, we just want to know. We want an honest, thorough investigation. That's all we're asking for.
On a quiet 4th of July weekend, a group of friends traveled to a remote island off the Mississippi Gulf Coast, a place known for its white sand beaches, peaceful campsites, and crystal blue waters. For 18-year-old college football player Nolan Wells, it was supposed to be just another summer adventure. But within hours, everything changed. Nolan disappeared. Days later, his body was found. At first, many believed it was a tragic accident. But then, the questions began. His family refused to accept that the story was over. An independent autopsy raised new uncertainties. Investigators asked the public for photos, videos, and eyewitness accounts. A nationally known attorney joined the family's search for answers. And suddenly, what seemed like a heartbreaking accident became one of the most closely watched investigations in America. What really happened on Horn Island? Was it simply a tragic accident? Or is there still a crucial piece of the story missing? Tonight, we'll carefully examine the publicly available evidence, reconstruct the timeline, and separate confirmed facts from speculation. Because in an active investigation, every detail matters. This is the mysterious case of Nolan Wells. Chapter 1. Who was Nolan Wells? Before his name became national news, Nolan Wells was simply an 18-year-old with a promising future. He was a college freshman and a dedicated football player from Mississippi, known by friends and family as hard-working, respectful, and deeply committed to the people around him. Those who knew Nolan described him as someone who loved the outdoors, enjoyed spending time with friends, and had ambitious plans for the future. Like many young Americans celebrating Independence Day weekend, Nolan joined a group of friends for a camping trip to Horn Island, one of the remote barrier islands along Mississippi's Gulf Coast. The destination is famous for its untouched beaches, fishing, camping, and breathtaking scenery. For the group, it was supposed to be a weekend filled with adventure, bonfires, laughter, and unforgettable memories. Nothing about that trip suggested it would become the center of a nationwide investigation. As the sun set over the Gulf of Mexico on July 4th, the atmosphere appeared calm. Friends were enjoying the holiday. Boats moved across the water, and campers settled in for the evening. But sometime during the night, something happened. The next morning, Nolan Wells was gone. What began as a missing person search would soon evolve into a mystery that continues to raise difficult questions. Questions that investigators, forensic experts, and Nolan's family are still trying to answer. To understand what happened, we first need to reconstruct the events of that weekend, step by step, using the information that has been publicly confirmed. Chapter 2. The Trip to Horn Island. The timeline begins on the 4th of July weekend in 2026. Nolan Wells and a group of friends traveled by boat to Horn Island, a remote barrier island located off the Mississippi Gulf Coast. With no permanent residents, limited facilities, and miles of undeveloped shoreline, the island is beautiful, but also isolated. For many visitors, that's exactly the appeal. Camping, fishing, swimming, and spending time away from the mainland have made Horn Island a popular destination for outdoor enthusiasts. According to publicly reported information, Nolan and his friends set up camp and spent the day enjoying the holiday weekend. As daylight faded, the atmosphere remained peaceful. But sometime during the night, events took a dramatic turn. At some point, Nolan became separated from the rest of the group. Exactly when, how, and under what circumstances that happened remains one of the biggest unanswered questions in the investigation. When his friends realized he was missing, concern quickly turned into panic. A search began on the island, but Nolan could not be found. Soon, local authorities, marine units, and other emergency responders joined the effort, searching both the island and the surrounding waters. What had started as a holiday camping trip had suddenly become a race against time. With every passing hour, hope began to fade. Then came the discovery that would change everything. Nolan Wells was found dead, but instead of bringing answers, the discovery marked the beginning of an even deeper mystery, one that investigators and Nolan's family are still working to solve. In the next chapter, we'll examine the search operation, the discovery of Nolan's body, and why the first findings only led to more questions than answers. Chapter 3. The search and a heartbreaking discovery. As the hours passed, the search intensified. What had begun as friends, looking for one another quickly, became a full-scale emergency response. Local law enforcement, marine patrol units, and search teams focused their efforts on Horn Island and the surrounding waters, hoping Nolan would be found alive. Every minute mattered. Family members waited anxiously for updates, while search crews continued scanning the shoreline, wooded areas, and nearby waters. Then came the news no family ever wants to hear. Nolan Wells was found dead near Horn Island. Instead of providing closure, the discovery immediately raised difficult questions. How had an 18-year-old athlete ended up dead? What exactly happened during the final hours before he disappeared? And why was there still so much uncertainty about the events of that night? As investigators began processing the scene, officials started gathering physical evidence, interviewing witnesses, and reconstructing the timeline. Initially, some believed the case might have been a tragic accident, but as more information became public, the investigation became far more complicated. Nolan's family said they still had unanswered questions and wanted a complete, transparent investigation. They later requested an independent autopsy in hopes of learning more about what happened. That decision would become one of the most significant turning points in the case, because the examination did not provide a simple answer. Instead, it introduced new uncertainties, raising fresh questions about Nolan's death and fueling renewed calls for a deeper investigation. In the next chapter, we'll examine the autopsy findings, the family's concerns, and the new evidence that has kept this case in the national spotlight. The autopsy that raised more questions. For many families, an autopsy provides answers. In Nolan Wells' case, it did the opposite. After the initial examination, Nolan's family sought an independent autopsy, hoping it would explain exactly how their son died. Instead, the results left investigators and the family with even more unanswered questions. According to the publicly released findings, the independent medical examiner could not determine a definitive cause or manner of death. The report classified the cause of death as undetermined. The examination also noted an area of reddish discoloration on the back of Nolan's head. However, the examiner could not conclude whether it represented an injury that occurred before death or a change that happened afterward. The available evidence was not enough to reach a definitive conclusion. The report further explained that the condition of the body and the passage of time significantly limited what forensic experts could determine. That meant investigators could not conclusively confirm exactly what happened during Nolan's final moments. For Nolan's family, the uncertainty was devastating. Without clear forensic answers, they believed the investigation needed to continue. Rather than accepting uncertainty, the family began pushing for additional evidence, more witness interviews, and a deeper review of everything that happened on Horn Island that weekend. As public attention grew, the case began attracting national headlines, and soon, a well-known civil rights attorney joined the family's fight for answers. In the next chapter, we'll examine why the investigation expanded, what new evidence investigators are seeking, and how the case continues to evolve as authorities work toward finding the truth. A family's fight for the truth, 11/10/13/40. As weeks passed, Nolan Wells' family made one thing clear. They were not looking for speculation. They were looking for answers, believing that important questions remained unresolved. The family retained nationally known civil rights attorney Ben Crump to help seek a transparent and thorough investigation. Together, they urged anyone who had been on Horn Island during the 4th of July weekend to come forward. Investigators also expanded their efforts, asking the public to submit original photos, videos, cell phone recordings, drone footage, and eyewitness information from that weekend. Even a single image or a few seconds of video could help investigators reconstruct Nolan's final known movements. Authorities continued interviewing witnesses and reviewing digital evidence to build the most accurate timeline possible. At the same time, the case drew national attention across television networks, newspapers, and social media. As new reports emerged, countless theories began circulating online, but investigators cautioned that rumors are not evidence. Many claims shared online have not been verified, and officials have repeatedly emphasized that the investigation remains active. For Nolan's family, the focus has never changed. They want the truth, wherever that truth leads. Whether the final answer points to a tragic accident or something else, they have continued to ask for a complete, evidence-based investigation. As of today, key questions remain unanswered, and until investigators reach a final conclusion, the mystery surrounding Nolan Wells' final hours is still unresolved. In our final chapter, we'll look at where the investigation stands today, what authorities have confirmed, and why this case continues to capture the attention of people across the United States. The death of Nolan Wells remains an active investigation. Authorities continue reviewing, examining witness statements, and asking everyone with first-hand information. Photos or videos from Horn Island during the 4th of July. Several details about the public. Investigators have not reached a final conclusion about exactly for Nolan's family. The search for answers continues. They have repeatedly said they will do something to learn the truth and ensure evidence is carefully examined. Cases like this remind us that an ordinary day can turn into an unimaginable tragedy. Certainty, question as investigators continue, it's important to separate verified facts from online speculation. In active investigation, rumors can spread quickly, but only credible evidence can bring investigators closer to the truth. We'll continue following this case as new verified information becomes available. If you found this documentary informative, consider subscribing for more in-depth investigations into real cases that have captured national attention. And if you have any thoughts about this case, please keep the discussion respectful and based on confirmed information. Thank you for watching. This has been Nexora Docs.